Welcome to the Love, Sex and Freedom podcast. This is where you're going to discover how to bring awakening into the body and into everyday life through powerful tantric teachings. Get ready to release, open and step into your true power.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for our next live. Thank you, Raven, for being here. And today we're going to be exploring a topic that's very close to my heart. It's something I've definitely had my journey with, which is around clear communication for the confident woman. And I was just actually, before we jumped on this live, kind of reflecting back to my first marriage of 10 years where my communication was completely blocked and shut down and I didn't say anything. And then my second marriage of 7 years where finally I felt safe to express, and so kind of did that in sometimes horrendous ways, disguising it under confidence. And yeah, through Tantra, really working to find really that balance of authentic expression that is coming from the vulnerability in the body rather than the mind. And it's a journey that we're going to be exploring today.
Thanks, Clara.
Welcome.
So everyone listening, if you have questions throughout the duration, everyone's journey with expression is very unique. Put your questions in so we can answer them. We've also got some questions already that we'll be addressing. So yeah, it's been beautiful watching your journey with expression, Tara. So maybe just sharing with everyone, what are the 3 top things that have supported you the most in finding your way and communicating confidently and from an authentic space?
So the first one is I noticed this pattern where I'd feel something that was important for me to express, but because I'd been so blocked before, when the charge was there, it was the only time that I had the confidence to actually share and communicate. And my journey with that has been to actually let myself feel the depths of what's arising in that kind of stress response, actually, and to go through the deeper layers of that to what it is that I'm needing in relationship, and communicating that more from a space of inner clarity, from exploring all the emotions that are there. And I find that when I've done that, actually my space of clarity can be direct, but it's also more received because it's not so mental, and it doesn't come with the charge and all of the projections as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and this was such a big shift actually, is communicating what I am wanting rather than what I'm not wanting. And actually steering it. It's so logical, to look back and think about it, is to steer the communication as to where I'm wanting to move into, rather than looking back at the past, which is just endless arguing, disagreeing, minds battling minds. And then the third thing, that's something that I'm really working on now, which is for me actually feels like a huge paradigm shift, is more trusting what I'm feeling in my body, and actually letting go of concepts of this technique and that technique. Just bringing all of that attention back to myself, my feeling body, and communicating from the feeling body rather than the mind's analysis of it. So it's a work in process that you've been very supportive with.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think that last one, the reason I've been able to support you in that now is because you've got the first 2 pieces. Because if we try to just communicate from the body straight away, it can be so difficult, because it's hard to discern between the body's stress responses and just like blurting out whatever's like alive, which ends up being the mind's projection of the fight or flight that's in the body, rather than actually the deeper body's responsiveness. So I'm going to dive into all of that. And I want to just get everyone to close down your eyes for a moment and bring your hands to your heart. Breathe into the body. You know, healthy communication has so much to do with the breath and being here now. So everyone, let's just get here now and feeling how the vibration of the breath connects you to your body and the responsiveness of your body. Just feeling whatever's here. Maybe giving it some sound. Opening the eyes. So the first thing I want to say is that it's authentic communication. It's really not easy, especially when you're first playing with it. And it requires a lot of work outside of the communication. It requires a deep attunement to the body and to what's happening inside the body. Because, you know, I can see one question here. What if I'm too needy? Which we'll get to. But all of these questions, like, what if I'm too needy? What if the other person gets angry? What if I lose love? What if this? What if that? And really, healthy, authentic communication has nothing to do with your audience. It has nothing to do with what's right, what's too needy, what's not, blah, blah, blah. You're only as needy as your unmet needs. And anyone can say no or yes. Actually, needy behavior that becomes toxic and exhausting is when it's so attached to you have to give me your need, right? And that comes from a place of, like, a lot of our unhealthy patterns where we're focused on who we're talking to rather than who we are. And each of you are fundamentally worthy of your expression. Each of you are fundamentally worthy of feeling whatever you're feeling, and whatever you're feeling is valid. However, if you can feel upset without getting upset with someone initially and just feel the upset, feel that upset in your body, check it out, allow the breath and sound and movement to feel it even more, like with curiosity. Because when we get impacted by something, or when we have a desire, if we get impacted by something in a way that, that emotion is difficult, or if we're desiring something that we're super excited about, sometimes there can be an immediate reaction to that desire or to that pain. Responsiveness is very different. So first and foremost, I want to really dive into the difference between reacting and responding. The key to responding is breathing deeper, is checking out the layers, is actually having an intention to meet yourself, to dance with yourself, to discover what's there. You know, for me, my immediate reaction is often anger. And so if I just shoot off with that, look out, whoever's in my immediate sphere. But if I feel that and I'm getting curious about it and I breathe deeper into it, then yes, sometimes there's this fury in my body that if I allow myself to express that just in my own being and just really allow that anger, then that brings me into more aliveness. And then I can ask the question, like, okay, what's underneath that? So might be my initial, and then underneath that might be a deep sadness and disappointment or fear. And so we're not giving ourselves the full love that we need and presence that we need and attunement that we need if we're just staying with the top layer. And what that means is whoever we're communicating with is not going to give us the attunement, deep listening and presence that we need. And whoever we're talking to is often a reflection of ourselves, right? And if you're just shooting off at that top layer from the reaction space, you're often going to be met with defensiveness. So the first step is to breathe a bit deeper, to check it out, to go in, which is what you were saying. I'm just condensing it, right? get curious about what's actually happening inside. And sometimes actually you don't need to have any verbal communication around it. And it's got nothing to do with anyone. And this, I want to dive into this second thing, which is nonverbal communication being a gateway into verbal communication. And there is so much power in nonverbal communication. What is nonverbal communication? Nonverbal communication is just being with what's here now and responding through the body. So, Tara, to demonstrate this for people, I'd like us to just kind of show what that looks like. So you're my partner, and tell me something that I might get upset about.
I feel like you're always working and you're never giving me enough time. And no matter what I say, you just keep prioritizing work. So,
okay, so in this situation, I'm the listener, right? I want to be the expressor. So say something that could upset me.
I just feel like you don't actually care about me. And all you care about is work. And I'm just here as like, you just expect me to be there when you're available.
So if I was to react to that immediately without breathing into my body, I'd be like, how the fuck can you say that? Are you serious right now that I don't care about you? When I do this, this, and this, and then I'd go into this big launch of why everything she's saying is bullshit. Right? Because I'm upset. She's probably spoken a truth, right? That's getting to me. And I'm feeling like unseen in some way, right? If she's telling me all I do is work, it's like, do you not see how amazing that is and the life that it provides for us? So I could go on and on and on about that. Now, if I'm responding from the body, I don't know what I'm going to say. So let's have a look. So in a space of nonverbal communication, I would probably just be upset. And maybe I would even cry because it's something that I've heard before. So it's upsetting me and making me sad that I'm hearing this again, right? And then straight away, as soon as I'm showing that I'm upset, then it's going to be much easier for the listener to be empathic because they can feel me. So the key here is that when there's nonverbal communication and you're allowing the body to just be where it is, it's kind of like a somatic meditation communication in the way I'm talking about, where you're staying attuned to the body. And instead of focusing on the person, you're focusing on what's here now as this is arising. And then who knows where the conversation will go. Another example is like, something that used to trigger me a lot was when my partner would be late and I had something important, like having to take the kids somewhere, and then as soon as he would get home, I'd be like, I can't believe you were late again. You know how important this is to me, going on and on and on. This is the third time you've done it this month. And, he's just walked in the door and I've completely just ranted and raved. And how hard is it going to be for him to say sorry or inspire him to actually change? He's just going to feel exhausted. But if he came home and I was just really, really upset, right, and feeling that upset, and then allow the nonverbal communication to be felt, then maybe the verbal communication would be much simpler. Well, definitely, because that's been my experience. It's just like, how important being on time is, especially when I've got to take the kids somewhere. Can you please just be on time? But he's already felt me. He feels how important it is, right? And then he's like, yeah, sorry, babe. And that's my experience, that it's so much easier for a man to say sorry genuinely when he feels us, and vice versa when we can feel a man. So the question to all of you is, what would it be like to just let yourself be seen? Because so many times I hear women say, I just want to be seen. I just want to be met. Well, fucking meet yourself, see yourself, and reveal that. Right? Be in the revealing of who you really are. Be in the revealing of what's really happening. And the gift that gives someone is so beautiful, because it's not like you're not going to put up with shit, but not from a place of, how dare you, from a place of feeling it and just being like, this isn't okay. And there's a natural confidence that's going to come with that, because it's not dependent on anything external. You've got to be confident with it because you're just owning where you're at, right? And then same with desire. It's like, I was saying to you yesterday, how many women say to me that they don't know how to flirt, because flirting isn't something conceptual, or, it doesn't follow a 4-step plan. Flirting is allowing the natural responsiveness of your body to be seen. So if you're feeling desire from someone and you're actually feeling that in the body, then naturally you're going to come into a deeper eye gazing with them, or naturally you're going to move your body towards them, or maybe your body is going to start responding in a way where you're feeling desire. And actually the way that a man feels a woman's desire is through our desire. So, another question I get asked a lot is, how can I make him desire me more? And it's like, well, feel your own desire for life, your own desire for him, your desire for all the beautiful sensations that you have available. And as he feels your desire, his desire is going to come online. But so often we're disconnected from the body, disconnected from how we feel, disconnected from what's happening, and all up in the head, that it's not inspiring. And, I did a post the other day about what inspires a man's full commitment and full choosing of you. It's when he feels choosing, and when he feels the initiation of what's naturally going to happen with a woman who's fully alive, totally present, and not controlling her experience. He can feel that Shakti. And, we want a man's stability and rock, and that he can really hold, because it's hard for us to do that because our emotions are so full. And that creates polarity, like we're feeling this masculine strength and solidarity and witness and, sovereign linear energy. Now, he doesn't need more of that. He certainly doesn't need more mental or logic or reasoning, because he's already got enough. He wants to feel aliveness. He doesn't want to feel us going, okay, so, this is what happened. This is what I need. This is how I feel. There's mental communication formula. You have to actually feel it in the body, how you feel and what you need. Yeah. And I'll say one more thing about nonverbal communication leading into verbal communication. The verbal communication is so short, because actually when you're feeling everything fully, it's hard to find words. Like often when I'm feeling everything fully, I'll just say to Matisse, I don't have words right now if he asks me a question. But then eventually it's like, I'm just so sad. Can you just hold me? Or, I'm really angry right now. Can you hold that? And I'm not asking him, if I'm not able to just feel the rage and I'm still in the mind, I'll be like, it could be pretty nasty. So you may not want to. Or, if they're actually wanting to be engaged with me, or if I'm really in my body, it'll just be raw rage. And then he can feel the anger that has roused in me from whatever's happened. And then his natural responsiveness will be a deeper empathy and that deeper listening that I was talking about.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you for all of that. And I think it can be scary sometimes to trust that actually by feeling and expressing feeling first, and then expressing more from that feeling than thinking state, because for majority of people, we've never experienced that because we haven't grown up with that. So all that we're familiar with is two minds trying to kind of work it out and butting heads. So that's why for me, I call it a paradigm shift, because we're approaching this from a completely different perspective, which requires a deep listening and trust of the body and the mind. I've been reflecting back to times when I have communicated more from that way, and the response that I've gotten from people and men in my life.
More from the mind or more from the body?
Sorry, more from the body, as I'm challenging myself to do that more. And the first reflection I got back was, wow, thank you. It's so nice to feel you. And then the second response was, fuck, you're right. Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. You know, and how I would have approached it previously by defending, explaining,
complaining, shaming.
And it actually brought from that space a beautiful friendship that evolved from that space. And then also, I think it's really handy to reflect back on when people have spoken to us, to the listeners, when people come to you with their upset. And when it's really mind-based, it's just like, oh, it's just a lot to deal with and to receive. But if you can think back to times when a friend or a partner has come to you with their vulnerability and you can feel them in that, it, like you were saying, it's so much easier to connect through empathy to what their experience is. And unless you're with a real dirtbag, then, you know, the people that you're in relationship with want to love you and want to expand the relationship and understand you. It's just more challenging when they're feeling this onslaught of the mind and the charge that they can't then feel us.
Yeah, and from a man's perspective, because my partner is very connected to his body and the responsiveness of his body, so I really get to see what it's like for a man. And if I'm coming to him with a lot of mind, he'll just, because he does have that serenity and assertiveness. So it's like, this is the same for men responding from the body, but it has a different tone when it comes out. So rather than it being the full aliveness, it's very self-respecting and it has clear boundaries. So if I'm going on one, you know, Matisse will just say, hey, like, I'm not available for this. If you are prepared to speak to me with love, I'm available. And he'll actually tell me the impact that it's having on his body. He'll be like, this feels really overwhelming. This doesn't feel good for me. So for both people, it's about tuning in and expressing that. And when we are, it naturally creates polarity. Because actually, if a man was staying attuned to the impact on his body, he would be in his masculine a lot of the times in communication, either deeply listening and holding space and holding presence for the vulnerability or for the aliveness, or saying, hey, this isn't okay. And actually, there's a part of a woman that likes that likes to be actually challenged to have to shut up and feel. I think the hardest part, definitely for me and for women who are on this journey, is that when you're listening to the responsiveness of your body, it's much more vulnerable and you have to let go of your pride. Like I have a very strong trigger when it comes to my partner's leaving. And, you know, when my dad left, things would happen that would be difficult for me to experience. It was very volatile at home. And plus I would be going somewhere after school when he wasn't picking me up, where there was intrusion happening, sexual intrusion happening. So there's something that would always trigger off on me when my partner would be away. My dad traveled a lot. And what I used to do would be like, yeah, that's fine. But underneath, I would be feeling all of this pain around the abandonment, this trigger around different levels of abuse. And I would just swallow all of that down. I would distract, I would go out, I would flirt with other men, and then he'd come back and I would cause a fight. Right? Now, when I started to really embody this piece that I'm talking about, and I want to say here, like, it's all very well and good to talk about this on a live, and awareness is the first step. But to actually practice this, you need to go on a journey of deep embodiment. You need to actually learn how to map your nervous system, how to feel what there is to feel. And if you're wanting to do that, we have an amazing new offering coming up. and there'll be a reveal of it. So just put in comments, exclusive reveal, and you'll find out about a beautiful journey that you can go on with me, and Tara will be guest teaching as well. So yeah, if you're interested in going deeper and actually embodying this, then we're here for that. So once I actually got this piece and started being a lot more connected to my body and the responsiveness of my body, when a man was leaving, I would actually just feel really, really sad. And then he would feel that and he'd be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just feeling that you're going." Now that's very hard to admit for this powerhouse tantra teacher, you know. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? He's going away. Just let the man go away. But it is what it is. And what do I need? Again, to address that question, how can I not be needy? So on the surface, I need him to stay. But what do I really need? I need to feel safe in my body when he's gone, right? So what I would communicate is, you know, he'd be like, "I don't have to go." I'm like, "No, I want you to go. I want you to be free. But what do I need to feel extra safe in that?" So, you know, could we please talk every day? Maybe that's it. Or could you leave in a week so my nervous system has time to just assimilate the information rather than you going tomorrow? Can we have some real quality time together on the day that you're leaving? And as the journey unfolded, I learned more and more about what I needed. So part of this is not having shame about what's here, because it just is the reality that it is. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we feel shame around it, then, you know, there's a part of us that when we're not letting be seen in that vulnerability, which creates such deep intimacy. But it's not easy. It's not easy, because vulnerability, not only do you have to let go of your pride, but you also have to risk rejection when you're that open, right? Which can feel really scary. And something that also I remind myself of is that if I go into the mind right now, I'm going to want to make him my enemy or my savior, because that's what the mind does when we're upset, right? Or even in our desire and the expression of a request or a need, which is part of communication. So, but when we're in the body, it's like, here I am. And when we can shamelessly and unapologetically own what we're upset about, what we're desiring, what we're needing, then of course we might feel disappointed if they can't give us what we need or can't hold that, but that's not the main point. The main point is to just create that safety for ourselves, to be where we are, to be seen where we are, and actually be curious about whether this is a compatible relationship and our needs can be met.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that thread, I think there's so much focus that can be on the external with all of us for a lot of the human experience, because again, we've been programmed that way. And so it can be tricky to even catch yourself, to even consider breathing into your body and feeling what's there if your natural go-to is the mind. Something that I found really helpful is well, there's kind of 3 stages. One is after the fact, and look back at a relationship and be a conversation, be like, wow, that's where actually I first felt it, but didn't just breathe and relax into what I was feeling. One is during it, when I'm feeling it, and then I catch it. I'm like, oh, this is the point. And then the first one is when the body response comes up, then breathing into that rather than speaking. And like being able to, one, have awareness over it is the first step, but the more, like you were saying, you're on an embodiment journey, then the more that you're connected to the feelings that are arising in your body. And there can be, like, for me, it's fear is the normal, like the most common stress response that comes up. And then I hold it back, and I kind of don't do anything. For me, it's about like just breathing, just taking a breath, relaxing. And if I just pause for a moment and allowing myself the time and space to not have to communicate or to receive communication, and just go within and check out check out what's there, is like that pattern interrupt to not keep doing what's more comfortable, familiar, which is going into the mind.
With all of its protective mechanisms, you know?
Yeah.
And the thing is that what a lot of people don't realize when they're holding back from expression because they don't want to hurt someone, or because they don't want to lose love, or because how the person's going to take it, or they might appear needy, they're feeling it anyway. Right? It's not like you can it's so easy to feel, and then it's just fucking annoying. People are saying one thing or doing one thing, you can feel they're upset, then the energy's just funny and you get repelled, especially when someone's trying not to be needy or they're unsure of themselves, and then you just feel it and it's like, yeah, so you're going to appear in a way, your energy is going to portray that nonverbal communication anyway. So you may as well allow it to be fully seen with confidence and a sense of self-worth, rather than the passive-aggressive comments, resentment, or the funny energy, or the elephant in the room that no one's fucking addressing.
Absolutely. And men want to know what we want and what we're desiring, and how
women want to know what a man is feeling. It's like, for me, if I've got a man breathing into his balls and actually feeling his power and saying, hey, like, stop, either talk to me from love or stop talking to me, which is what Matisse does, that's great for me. It's like, yeah, okay, I need to just go upstairs and beat some pillows and throw a tantrum, feel a bit clearer, and then I'll go for a drive and then come back and talk to him. Or, as I said, if there's a lot of charge in my body and it's so much, then he can support me by holding space for the real raw energy if he's up for it. So let's address some of the questions, because there's quite a few.
So the first one is, a close male friend and I have recently shared a sexual connection. He wants to pause as is feeling emotionally overwhelmed, but I want to be fully chosen.
So then you feel into your body, you know, him not wanting that. It's like, oh, how does that feel? Oh, it's like, I feel disappointed. I feel sad. Some insecurities are coming up, some fear. And you feel all of that in your body. And then once you've felt all of that, you're probably going to be like, okay, I'm going to cut off this connection because he's not interested. This doesn't feel good. So it's like, thank you for honoring yourself. And obviously we're not compatible because I want to be fully chosen. Basically, like, everything points and leads to full honesty.
Yeah. And that fear of losing love and that fear of being alone, I think, is what often stops that deeper exploration of what is actually underneath that you're feeling, which is, I want to be chosen, but I'm not chosen.
Or arguing with reality. A lot of women who aren't chosen, they keep trying to get chosen, right? Because they're arguing with what they're feeling. They're not wanting to feel rejected. They're not wanting to feel the reality of him not actually fully choosing. So then they do all of this covert shit to try to get fully chosen. Or you're emotionally avoidant, or, you know, you've got commitment issues because of your mom, or what, who gives a fuck why?
Yeah.
Fully chosen. If you know you're worthy, like, if a man isn't fully choosing me, I'm just like, hey, thanks, see you later. Not in those words, but words to that effect. And every man I've done that with fully chooses me after that. It's like, you know, I tell the story often about my relationship with Aaron, and, you know, he wanted polyamory, I wanted monogamy. I'm like, okay, you know, that's your jam, I'm not into it. And then he tried to convince me, and I'm like, I'm just not into it. And he's like, okay, like, I want to be with you and just you, and fully committed to me. And all the stories leading up to that was he didn't even want to have the title relationship with a woman ever again. He was like in this real open field. And my partner before that, you know, he was like, I'm married to Jesus, basically. And I've been on my own for 5 years, and lots of stories around that. I'm like, okay, if that's where you're at. So when we can also be with the reality instead of arguing with it,
Mm.
Opening for a man to fully choose us. Because actually, when you feel fundamentally worthy of being fully chosen, then you're not going to argue with reality. And that stems from you're fully choosing yourself and you're actually feeling the reality of the situation. Because as soon as you're fighting with what you're feeling, you're going to fight with whatever is creating that feeling in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So when you end the argument with what you're experiencing, when you end the resistance, when you end the conflict of what's in here, there's nothing to argue about. And you don't have to analyze them and go, well, you know, you've got commitment issues, or I can see how you're afraid of that because of your mum, or listen to their bullshit about it. Not bullshit, but like, who cares? The reality is I want to be chosen. You're not fully choosing me. And sometimes a man might say, I'm fully choosing you, but you don't feel it. You know, I've had this situation in a relationship. I'm like, I can feel it in my body. I can feel how much you drop me. I want your consistent awareness with me and consistent presence. And he's like, oh, but I do this, this, and that. It doesn't matter. I'm not feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not feeling it, I trust that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what it feels like to me, and then going into it. And then he's like, I can see it. And actually respects a woman who can fucking name it, instead of living in denial or referring to psychological or spiritual concepts to try to analyze him out of his avoidance.
Absolutely. And then that's how we also inspire each other to grow, is where we feel each other.
Yeah.
It's not through the mind and in the body. It's like, oh, yeah, I do. I want to show up like that. That person. And then we're growing together through inspiration and expansion rather than through conflict and head fucking each other.
Yeah. And in that, sometimes there's an inspiration. Like I remember when I was first with Matisse and there was a bit of hesitation, you know, I'm like 15 years older, I've got 2 kids. And I wasn't like in the empathy of that and like, oh, I understand, or analyzing or talking about it. I'm just like, I get it. And where I am right now is I desire someone who fully embraces me and my kids, who wants to do life with me, who wants to do the day-to-day. And you're only 33. I was 29 at the beginning. I totally get it. And yeah, if you don't want that, but this is where I'm at in my life. And there's no argument with that. You know, you can't argue with reality. If you're not making anything right and wrong, then you meet in a field, as Rumi says, beyond right doing and wrongdoing. And we're just meeting in a true place of intimacy of who are you? Who are you in this moment? Where are we at? And can we meet? Can we meet there?
Beautiful. I'll go to the next question. How to communicate your sexual desires when others don't want to talk?
Well, you know, this question, I don't know if this is spurning from this, but often a woman will want to talk before or during sex about her desires, and it can kill the moment or the man. And so there's a few things. It's great to talk about what you desire in a separate conversation outside of the bedroom to not kill the chemistry. It's like, you know, something that I love when I'm making love is that well before penetration, my erogenous zones are contacted, and, you know, you touch my head and my scalp and stroke my face and my neck, and you come down the sides, and maybe you touch my hips and grab my ass, and, you know, feeling your desire as you're saying it. And then in the bedroom, whatever you're desiring, instead of like saying at the time, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? If he's specifically asked for you not to get verbal about it, you can move his or her hands to where you're wanting it, right? Or to just say very simply, with your desire, I'd love you to whatever you would love. So often what puts people off having desires spoken is when you're making something else wrong in the desire. It's like, oh, you know, my body's not open because of this, this, and this, and I need you to do this. he feels like a failure. He feels like he's fucked up. You're in the middle of like getting hot and juicy, and it's not going to feel good. So it's also about what you said earlier, Tara, which is to say what you do want, not what you don't want, and to own it. If you're owning your desire and you're not contracting or arguing with that desire within you, you're not scared of their response, and you're just like, I really want this. Yeah. So you could also experiment. Yeah, definitely the nonverbal communication, but verbal communication being different and being fueled by that desire, and very, very simple and short without any stories attached to it.
Well, it goes on to the next question is, what if the other person doesn't understand my I statement?
So I would love you to touch my erogenous zones before penetration, right? Let's use that as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he needs more clarity. Or like sometimes a woman's desire is just a whole other language to a man. Like even when I've been with Tantra teachers and I'm asking for like a lot of warming up in my body, I've asked for it. Next time they go way too quickly, right? Because a man's body is wired differently. You know, like all their nerve endings and turn on are in their cock, right? And that's what opens their heart. And so as soon as they're hard and ready to go, they're ready to penetrate. Whereas we have such a broader scope. Like, you know, you touch our neck and that opens our yoni. You touch our head, you touch our breasts. It's so much more complex. So it's also having compassion for the difference between men and women, and just like being patient with that, and maybe saying, hey, do you want some clarity on what I would love? Because one thing that comes up often is women will say, I want more foreplay and teasing. And a man doesn't actually know what that means. They just think more foreplay is like, you know, the classic going down on you, touching your pussy and touching your tits, right? And that's actually not what a woman needs. Is what I'm more speaking into, is like the whole body being touched, our face being caressed, being connected to through the eyes, maybe our hair being stroked and a little bit grabbed behind the head, and, you know, trailing the fingers down the body, maybe like bringing your hands up the spine. And so the body is writhing before it's entered. So we need to clarify these things. And, you know, again, like part of this new offering that I'm going to be bringing through is because it's so hard for women to speak into their desires, and it is a women's only event. So sorry, guys. And that's often because we don't know how to tune ourselves on. We don't understand female anatomy and mapping pleasure in the body. We're never taught that. So we know that we're not open. We know that we're numb. We know we're not feeling a lot of pleasure, but we don't fucking know why. So again, it starts with understanding and awareness. Then it goes into embodiment, and we will be doing some mapping of the body so that you can really feel what it means to be turned on. And when I used to do a lot of bodywork sessions, you know, women would come to me thinking that they were incapable of feeling pleasure. And then I would give them a tantric massage, and they're freaking writhing on the table because they're finally being touched in a way where the whole body from the head down, and, you know, the feet are another erogenous zone, are being stimulated and worked, and they're being seen and they're feeling everything, so that by the time I make it to their breasts or to their yoni, then they're just like so fully alive and ready, right? So pleasure mapping, understanding erogenous zones, knowing what turns yourself on is such an important key to being able to ask for what we desire with clarity.
Amazing. Can't wait for that. And then we have a question. So when clear communication intimidates someone or puts them on the defensive, is this simply a red flag and a all stop situation, or are there other methods to deal with it?
I've never actually experienced a man being defensive when I'm in the pure responsiveness of my body. Because what are they defending? What is there to defend if you're just feeling and then you're saying very simply, I'm sad, I need a hug? Or I'm angry, can you hold that? Or this doesn't feel good for me, can you stop? Like, and if he does, then it's like questioning that and just going, hey, like, what are you defending right now? I'm just sharing with you what I'm feeling, you know, that I like this or I don't like that. So you can question that. But yeah, I would say that 95% of the time, as you said earlier, Tara, unless the person's just a total jerk, people want to know what we need. They want to know what we desire. They want to know how to love us better. It's just, are you saying it in a complaining, nagging, dredging so much story up into it, being all masculine and like conceptual, or is he feeling you? And what a man needs more than anything is to feel trusted, trusting he will love you. He'll feel that. But if you're coming to him defensive and in your protective mechanisms, you'll feel that reflection, right? There's never been a time in my life that I've been crying and said to a man, can you please cuddle me? And he has said no or got defensive. Like, he can feel upset. It's like every man wants to be a woman's hero. Yeah, unless he's like a real osh.
And then we have a final question. My ex recently broke up with me because I got caught up in a frozen response from feeling triggered several times. I got triggered from him withdrawing repeatedly. How to break that cycle?
So this is a bigger question of how, when we're in freeze, how do we then bring ourselves back into the body, right? Because if we're in freeze, like there's no intimacy actually available. And often when we're in freeze, our protective mechanisms are up and we're in the mind. And when we're in the mind, we're often blaming them for our freeze. So they withdraw. Or if we're uncontactable, they withdraw, right? So it's like, okay, how do we get ourselves out of freeze? And often it's like clenching everything, releasing, clenching everything, releasing, creating safety to feel, breathing into the body. Okay, it's safe to be here. It's safe to be here. And you may need like further one-on-one work to support you, because often a freeze response, it's connecting with different parts of you in the timeline of your life that are frozen in time. And something that person is doing is reminding you of when you were frozen, when you were sexually abused, emotionally abused, when you were frozen, when someone cheated on you, when you were frozen, when, you know, your parents came down on you for being sad. Like, you know, if you're crying and a parent says, stop crying, you've got nothing to be upset about, there's going to be a freeze. So, you know, you have to go back to those moments, unfreeze those parts, allow yourself to express what you couldn't express then and reclaim those parts of you. So, you know, that's why a lot of this work around confident expression has a deeper healing component that is unwinding a lot of the stuck, frozen parts of our body into a more expanded state. You know, it's like, I feel like for the most part, you know, I've processed so much over the last 17 years since I've been doing a lot of that more primal work, that I'm pretty up to date. So all I'm feeling is what's happening now, but take me 17 years ago, and when a man was leaving or when, you know, something was happening, I'm not just feeling that moment, I'm feeling all these other times, which is all coming into that moment, and it can be very overwhelming for the person who's receiving that.
Yeah, and the deeper layers beneath this communication conversation and those layers definitely suggest for people to have a look at the Sex, Love and Freedom podcast of the Embodied Academy. And there's so many topics that get covered on there by Raven. and the team. So we'll put a link below. It's a great free resource to.
It is. And again, it's more stuff that your mind is receiving. So it's great. And it's a good first step. But if you're ready for embodiment work, which actually shifts things around in what's coming up, actually just comment Queen and we'll send you a link, Queen, or exclusive reveal. And really what inspired me to create this is how many women freeze up when it comes to communication, or how many women explode when it comes to communication. And then they're not able to actually really be seen, connect intimately with someone, feel the reflection of someone fully choosing themselves, because they don't know how to create that safety. And that's what we're going to be doing, because they don't actually know what they need. They don't know how to feel pleasure fully in their bodies. They don't know how to respond from the body because there's a disconnect. So we're going to be going into so many practices where you can feel yourself so that you can respond to your pleasure and to your pain in a fully alive way, and create that beautiful polarity that makes a man want to fully choose you, and that just is going to make your life so much better.
Amazing. So comment Queen below if you'd like details around the reveal for that. Check out the podcast link below.
And if you're watching a replay, feel free to ask any questions in the comments and I'll respond to them. Yeah, and thank you for the people who are here. Thank you for the people who are watching the replay. And this is just like, give yourself gratitude that you're showing up for this. Give yourself gratitude that you want to do things differently than majority of the population, who are either withdrawing and not communicating at all, or exploding and in big fights. And that's not what we need. It's not what our kids need. And another part of the reason I'm so passionate about this work is not just because of the requests that I can feel from everyone needing it, but also because I feel the planet is ready to evolve to a place where the homes that we are creating for our kids to grow up in are not in this, like, all of these energy dynamics that are so confusing for a child and that don't feel safe. What authentic, confident communication is transmitting to children is that I can say how I'm feeling. I can ask for what I need. I can feel everything fully. And my proudest achievement of my whole life, after several degrees and lots of successes, is definitely my two beautiful children who feel everything quite fully and are able to ask for what they need, especially my 20-year-old daughter. My 15-year-old son still struggles sometimes, teenage boy, but definitely just so much more attuned to his body than any other young man I know. And I love that my kids feel safe to really share with me what they need and how they're feeling. And that's what I want more than anything for the planet to evolve to, is that safety for our kids.
Absolutely. I think we'll need to bring Sidel onto one of these lives.
Yeah. Let her
believe it, that there's a 20-year-old with that amount of just confidence and respect and safety to And just
the other thing is that when they grow up in an environment like that, they feel worthy of speaking. Her self-worth is so high because she's seen that transmitted. She's also felt so honored and respected in her body. So it's a beautiful gift to give our kids.
Absolutely. And just when you're on this journey of really shifting this relationship with communication, just be gentle on yourself.
And patient. It's pages. And every now and then I still fuck it up. It's like, it's hard. It's hard when emotions are really strong, not to just project our pain onto someone, right? But when we project our pain, we actually don't get anywhere. So if we can just feel the pain, feel our upset without actually getting upset with anyone outside of us, and then when the communication can clearly just ask for what we need, then the relationship is always evolving and growing and only getting sexier and deeper. Matisse and I have been together almost 3 years, and there's only more turn on in our connection and more love. It doesn't have to diminish. It can grow when there's two people who are willing to be in their bodies and feel and reveal.
Absolutely. And I think just having an intention around this piece, around clear, confident communication, I feel like intention is so important when we're wanting to shift into a new pattern or a new way of doing something. And what I notice is that life co-creates experiences that will then give us the opportunity to practice it.
Absolutely. And it's remembering that at the core of clear, confident communication, because, is authenticity and realness and honesty and vulnerability. Because I used to think I was really clear and confident in my communication when I was like a diva with my nose in the fucking air going, hey, that's not okay. And I want this and I need that. That's not actually true, clear, confident communication. It's not connected to the deeper realness and honesty of the body, right? So it's feeling that thread that's weaving clear, confident communication that's true and deep, is knowing oneself, is sharing oneself fully. Yeah.
That's a great clarifying piece to finish on.
Thanks for listening to the Love, Sex and Freedom podcast. For more great free resources, in-person and online workshops, and our retreats, find us on Instagram and Facebook at Embodied Awakening Academy or visit embodiedawakeningacademy.com.